Glenn has something in common with all of the pro-Putin, like wannabe Russian cheerleaders. That, you know, from Tucker Carlson to Jimmy Dore to Aaron Mate and all those guys, they're all, and Ritter, all those fuckers. Douglas McGregor or whatever his fucking name is, the colonel that was on what's his name show with fucking Judge Judge Napolitano. Yeah.
None.
Hold on.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. This is Judge Napolitano. Napolitano, he was one of the like people that when it came to Trump, and they broomed him off of Fox quickly. Listen to the top of his argument. I'm not going to play this clip, but I just want you to hear the top of his argument. He's had a bunch of pro and con Ukraine Russia conflict people on, and he's fallen heavily on the side of well, you'll see here.
A former judge and a constitutional scholar that I hold myself out as an expert on the Constitution. I've written extensively about it. I've testified about it.
Well, everybody falls from grace, man.
Before the United States Senate, and I've spoken.
Yeah, there's Fox used to employ a psychologist who wrote books and was a #1 bestseller, and then he drugged and fucked his patients. What's your point?
Talking about it in many, many forums, but
yeah, Flynn had ribbons. He's now a traitor to the United States. I get it. Everybody can turn.
I have become fascinated with the war in Ukraine, and have been substantially educated by my personal research and outside reading, and especially.
He thinks the cure for the Ukrainian war, by the way, is ivermectin.
By the conversations I've had on air with Colonel Douglas McGregor and with Scott Ritter, and many of.
Yeah, that's convicted pedophile Scott Ritter and Douglas. I wish we could just blow up the whole world, McGregor, and just start over with, you know, Douglas McGregor is like the character in Spies Like Us, where everybody's like, you'll trigger a nuclear war, it'll destroy the entire planet, and he goes, to preserve the American way of life, that's something I would do. Like, he's that stupid. I don't think he gives a fuck. I think he's in the tank for Russia at this point. But yeah, anyways,
you have been interested in this already. I am convinced that no matter how harsh Vladimir Putin may be perceived by the media in the
it's not that he is that, he's just perceived that way by the media. He's just, you know, it's more fake news.
The United States, he has a very, very strong moral and legal case to be made that the areas of Ukraine that are Russian speaking for years,
because they rolled in there, killed people, kidnapped people, and then moved Russians into the area. And by the way, this is arguably the same case that Israel will make about Palestinian territories, where they broom people out, they move in with bulldozers and guns, they push everybody over, they bring in families, make people move there, give them land for free or incentivize it, or actually, you know, like if you want to buy a house, you can't buy a house anywhere but there. And then if you want to be an Israeli citizen, you got to do it. And then they move into those areas, and then they say, well, we've been living here for years.
For decades, in some cases for centuries.
No, the USSR doesn't fucking exist anymore. Vladimir Putin was never the head of the USSR. He was part of the KGB. Fuck him. Fuck them. Fuck that nonsense. That's fucking goofy. That's like saying the governor of North Dakota or South Dakota has a real legitimate argument for seizing back Native American territory in their states because of fucking the way the rivers run, and because deals were broken a long time ago, so the ability to break deals is still legally possible, so fuck them. That's the depth of this argument.
Been part of Russia. I am also convinced,
and Poland's part of the Rhineland, so sure,
that the United States should have no dog in this fight. None.
Yeah, no dog in this fight. Fuck them and right. Okay, so that's his argument. By the way, and just a little flashback. Here he is with Scott Ritter. Here him asking a couple questions. Let's take a dive into their conversation.
Stuff. They're there to investigate, find out what happened to something. reconstruct data. And the reason why they're doing it is that there's increasing concern that a lot of these weapons that we've provided Ukraine, especially the Javelin anti-tank missiles and the Stinger anti-air missiles, aren't being used against the Russians, but being taken.
Really? The tops of those fucking tanks are just popping off on their own? So the Ukrainians don't even have to fire the Javelins. The fucking, the big pop top ones where they just blow the whole fucking turret off and it turns upside down. They don't even need a Javelin for that? Shit, what are they throwing? Popcorn and then shooting it with a heat ray?
Taken and sold on the black market.
No.
To criminal elements and potential terrorists in Europe. The German government has intercepted a terrorist or a criminal element that had a Stinger missile.
The German government has intercepted a criminal element that had a Stinger missile. P.S. The Russians have taken territory in these periods that overran areas that had all of these weapons. The idea that somehow that they were sold to them by the Ukrainians because fuck it, we're not really committed to this, versus the Russians found the shit and the kleptocracy that goes there was like, we can't use this because we don't have the firing capability, but we could sell it for money.
That was sent, that the United States sent to Ukraine. So we know this isn't theory, this is reality.
Yes, reality. One anecdotal story of a Stinger missile, source unknown, ends up with a German, quote, criminal element, is intercepted, by the way, so they didn't get very fucking far. But the rest of them that are actually hitting tanks and destroying troops and armaments and ammo dumps, that we should stop all that, because Scott Ritter, convicted pedophile, has convinced Judge Napolitano, who is not welcome on Fox anymore, that the Ukrainians deserve what they're getting because the whole country was wearing a short skirt.
And, after this coming election next week, everybody...
Oh, by the way, I think this was before the midterms.
...believes that the Republicans are at least going to take the House, and they may take the Senate. What does this mean? That if Joe Biden wants to continue funneling tens of billions of dollars worth of American taxpayer money to Ukraine, he needs to do it before the Republicans take control of the Congress.
Yeah, I already did.
It means during this lame duck session. The problem is, if he asks for it and somebody asks the question, can you guarantee me that no Javelins, no Stingers are missing, that no weapons have made their way to the Black? The Pentagon right now can't guarantee anything.
Yes, normally in theaters of war, you can guarantee everything. Hey, can you guarantee me that no Apache helicopters are being used by the North Koreans that were stolen in Afghanistan? Well, since we have one that was set for demolition, and I think it was, but I wasn't there to watch it blow up, I suppose technically anything's possible. Well, that's it. We're shutting down the Defense Department. Like, this is just dumb. Anyways, and Judge Napolitano looks like I feel listening to fucking Scott Ritter. That said, that whole group, Glenn Beck, Scott Ritter, Judge Napolitano, Tucker, all that crowd, you'll notice, and pay attention because it's going to get worse for them, that as Ukraine gets stronger and as Ukraine gets closer to winning, and watch what happens when if you thought they thought World War III was going to start because of Nord Stream pipeline, wait till they take Crimea and block the bridge. They're going to like, that's it, tactical nuclear warheads, we're all doomed. They're gonna walk up and take the doomsday clock and go, why won't it fucking move? They'll want it to be on midnight just to prove a point. As that gets closer, every time Ukraine makes some genuine moves where it looks like they're going to not only go back to the 2014 borders, or back to the last year's borders, but all the way back to 2014, retaking Donbass and Crimea and going back to the original Russian borders. The closer that gets to happening, the more these folks are going to clamor for negotiations and want to shut it down. We have to have peace now. Like Jeremy Corbyn is, again, another dude in the tank for Russia, faux-aggressive in Britain. And his whole argument is like, we've got to stop this before the Ukrainians actually win. We have to stop this, because a lot of them, by the way, are run off of Russian money. Now, in the case of Ritter, they either have video of him with a kid or they're promising him a bunch of them if they win. And it's hard to tell what would motivate him the most. He's fucking gross. And just, you know, he thought he was conversing with a 15-year-old online and went to pick her up, and then it turned out to be a police officer, and he went to jail for it. So, and he got out early. You know who else got out early for that kind of shit? John Wayne Gacy. So don't get me started. All right, so yeah, he molested a kid and then went to jail he got 6 years and got to go home after, I think, a year and a half for good behavior. Yeah, that always works out.